Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is George and I review watches. In this video, we are taking a look at the Militado 1921, an homage to the legendary Vacheron Constantin Historiques Americaine 1921. The brand reintroduced it as part of their Historiques collection in 2008 and has released several versions since, including models in white gold, pink gold and platinum. The Militado homage stays true to the spirit of the original with a 36mm case that reflects the vintage proportions. But does it hold up as a solid alternative to the luxury timepiece? Let's find out. Before we dive into the details of this specific watch, let's take a moment to talk about Militado as a brand. As the name suggests, their catalog leans heavily toward classic field and pilot watch designs. They've created homages to several well-known models, including Hamilton's khaki field lineup and the Murph, as well as various Flieger-style pilot watches. However, the 1921 homage we're looking at today is a bit of a departure from their usual aesthetic. Unlike their rugged military and aviation pieces, this one is a more refined, vintage-inspired dress watch. That makes it somewhat of an outlier in their collection, but it also shows that Militado isn't afraid to explore different styles. One thing Militado is known for is offering good specifications at competitive prices. Many of their models come with a choice between mechanical and quartz movements, giving buyers flexibility based on budget and preference. If you're into military-style watches and looking for an affordable way to build your collection, Militado is definitely a brand worth considering. Before we continue, I think it's worth taking a moment to talk about the watch that inspired this piece, the Vacheron Constantin Historiques Americaine 1921. The original version of this watch was introduced, unsurprisingly, in 1921, designed specifically for the American market during the Roaring '20s. What made it stand out was its off-center dial orientation and crown, which was intended to make it easier to read while driving, a feature that catered to the rise of automobiles at the time. Despite its unique and forward-thinking design, the original 1921 wasn't a massive commercial success and remained a relatively obscure model for decades. However, in 2008, Vacheron Constantin reintroduced it as part of their Historiques collection, and since then it has gained significant appreciation among collectors. Today, it's considered one of the most elegant and distinctive vintage-inspired dress watches on the market. Most modern reissues of the 1921 come in white gold, pink gold or platinum, typically featuring hand-wound movements from Vacheron's in-house calibers like the caliber 4400 AS, a beautiful decorated manual wind movement with a 65-hour power reserve. With that in mind, the Militado 1921 is clearly paying homage to an iconic piece of horology. The question is, how well does it capture the essence of the original? The watch comes packaged in a faux leather travel case, which immediately gives off a vintage-inspired vibe. It's somewhat reminiscent of old Omega service cases, and while it's not real leather, it has a nice texture and a premium feel for the price. Inside, the packaging is minimal. You get the watch, a soft case pillow, and a guarantee card. The first thing you notice when holding this watch is the rotated dial, a signature element of the original Vacheron Constantin 1921 design. The off-axis Arabic numerals immediately catch your eye, framed by a cushion-shaped case that gives the watch a distinctly vintage character. At a glance, the Militado 1921 exudes a sense of understated sophistication. It's undeniably a dress watch, but with a unique twist. The combination of its unusual layout and classic proportions give it an elegance that feels refined yet slightly playful. Now let's get into the dimensions. Measured with my calipers, the watch comes in at 36.2mm in diameter. It has a thickness of 10.6mm, including the domed sapphire crystal, and a lug-to-lug of 42mm. These proportions stay true to the vintage inspiration, keeping the watch compact and elegant while still maintaining enough presence on the wrist. The dial of the Militado 1921 is where this watch truly shines, both figuratively and literally. It's an intricate and well-executed homage to the Vacheron Constantin Historiques Americaine 1921, yet it maintains a distinct charm of its own. The watch features Breguet-style hands, staying true to the original Vacheron Constantin 1921 design. These hands have an elegant, curved shape with hollowed-out circles near the tips, adding a touch of classical refinement. They are highly polished, catching the light beautifully as they glide across the dial. The heat blued second hand complements them perfectly, adding a pop of color without overpowering the overall aesthetic. It's not an overly bold blue, just the right shade to maintain the vintage elegance. The Arabic numerals are also slightly polished, giving them a mirror-like effect that reflects light at different angles. They're very well proportioned and sit harmoniously within the dial, enhancing the sense of balance and symmetry. One of the standout features of this watch is the subtle yet sophisticated texture of the dial. It has a sandblasted, finely grained finish that gives it a premium, almost metallic sheen. Unlike a flat matte surface, this texture interacts beautifully with the light, shifting between a soft shimmer and a more defined grain depending on the angle. This effect adds depth and visual interest, preventing the dial from feeling overly simple or sterile. The sunken subdial at 3 o'clock, or closer to a traditional 4 o'clock depending on how you view it, is another highlight. It's delicately recessed, giving the dial an added sense of dimension. The railroad-style second track is crisply printed. The numerals on the subdial are in a serif font, reinforcing the vintage aesthetic and ensuring that even the smallest details feel deliberate. At 12 o'clock you'll find the brand's name, Militado, in a slim, discreet font that doesn't overpower the dial. It keeps the watch feeling clean and uncluttered. And speaking of branding, I have to say that Militado is one of the better names among Chinese microbrands. Many affordable homage brands have names that feel awkward or nonsensical in English, but Militado has a Western-sounding, military-inspired name that actually aligns well with their design philosophy. The polished numerals and hands contrast beautifully with the sandblasted texture. The heat blued accents add a touch of old-world craftsmanship, and the cushion-shaped case frames everything in an elegant, understated manner. It's a dress watch, yes, but with a unique personality, one that stands out without being flashy. And perhaps most impressively for a watch at this price point, the finishing is remarkably clean. There are no coarse details, no visible machining flaws, everything feels thoughtfully put together. In short, this is a watch that rewards closer inspection. What might seem like a simple dial at first glance reveals layers of detail and refinement, making it all the more enjoyable to wear and admire. The Militado 1921 stays faithful to the elegant proportions and vintage aesthetic of its inspiration, with a case design that feels both refined and deliberate. This is a dress watch through and through, and every aspect of its build reflects that intent. The entire case is finished in a full high polish with no brushed or bead blasted surfaces anywhere. This gives it a sleek, almost jewel-like appearance, perfect for a watch meant to exude classic elegance. However, as with any fully polished case, it will inevitably pick up hairline scratches over time, particularly on the larger flat surfaces. If you're someone who prefers a mix of finishing styles to help mask wear, this might be something to consider. That said, the polishing itself is well executed with smooth, clean reflections that enhance the cushion case's curves. There are no harsh edges or abrupt transitions, everything flows seamlessly from one surface to the next, reinforcing the watch's vintage-inspired dressy aesthetic. The cushion-shaped case is one of the defining features of this watch, staying true to the proportions of the original Vacheron Constantin 1921. Softly rounded edges give it a graceful presence on the wrist, making it feel a touch more organic compared to sharper, more angular case designs. One of the most practical aspects of the case design is the lugs. They are small and angled almost vertically downward, which helps the watch wear more compactly despite the 36mm case diameter. Combined with a 42mm lug-to-lug measurement, this makes the watch wear comfortably on a wide range of wrist sizes, hugging the wrist rather than sitting flat. A distinctive element of the 1921 design is the crown placement at 2 o'clock, a feature that traces back to the original's driving watch heritage. This placement is part of what gives the watch its quirky charm, though functionally it may take some getting used to if you're accustomed to more conventional crown positions. The crown itself is a push-pull type, which is expected for a dress watch in this category. However, the winding experience leaves something to be desired. The action feels rough and slightly unrefined, and you can tell this is where some cost-cutting has taken place. There's a certain flimsy, grainy feel to the mechanism, not necessarily a deal-breaker, but definitely an area where it falls short compared to higher-end mechanical watches. Covering the dial is a raised, slightly domed sapphire crystal with an anti-reflective coating. The dome gives the watch a nice vintage-inspired profile, and the anti-reflective coating does a respectable job at reducing glare. However, due to the curvature, you'll still catch reflections at certain angles, something that adds to the charm rather than detracts from it. As for durability, Militado claims 50 meters of water resistance, which is technically enough for light splashes and hand washing. However, given that it only has a push-pull crown, I wouldn't push my luck. This is not a watch you want to take near water, and realistically for a dress piece that's completely fine. Flipping the watch over, the caseback is simple and unadorned, a flat high-polished steel plate secured with 8 screws. There's nothing particularly special here, but it fits the overall aesthetic of the watch. Powering this watch is the Seagull ST1701K, a Chinese-made automatic mechanical movement that has become a popular choice for affordable dress watches. It runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour or 4 Hz, which means the second hand moves with a more refined fluid motion compared to lower beat movements. It also has hacking seconds, always a nice feature for precise time setting. And with a power reserve of around 40 hours, you can take it off for a day or so without immediately needing to reset it. As you probably know, non-round watches tend to wear larger than their dimensions suggest, and that's definitely the case with the Militado 1921. In the past, I've owned the Baltani 1921, which came in at 39mm, and while I absolutely loved the design, it just felt too large on my 6.75-inch or 17cm wrist. If you're interested in that review, I'll leave a link in the description below. But ultimately, I ended up selling it because despite its charm, it just didn't sit quite right on my wrist. So the moment I saw the Militado offered a 36mm version, I jumped on it, and I have to say it wears significantly better. That said, it still wears larger than a typical 36mm round watch, largely due to the cushion case shape. I'd say on the wrist it feels more like a 38mm round watch, which makes it a great option for those with smaller to medium wrists. The compact lug-to-lug measurement of 42mm and the 10.6mm thickness also contribute to its balanced proportions. The watch sits nice and snug without overhanging the wrist, and thanks to its slim profile, it effortlessly slides under a cuff, making it a fantastic option for both formal and casual wear. Here are some wrist shots on my 6.75-inch or 17cm wrist. The watch comes fitted with a tan-colored genuine leather strap, and right out of the box it feels supple, well made and high quality, which is not something I can always say about OEM straps on AliExpress watches. Many of them tend to be stiff, plastically or overly thick, requiring a long break-in period. But this one, it's soft, malleable and conforms to the wrist beautifully from day one. One of the best additions here is the inclusion of quick-release spring bars. If you're someone who likes to swap out straps regularly, this is a huge convenience. It means you can switch things up in seconds with no tools required. And with a classic design like this, I can easily see it working on a variety of different straps. After spending time with the Militado 1921, I can confidently say that this is one of the best affordable homages to the Vacheron Constantin 1921 available today. Militado has done an excellent job capturing the spirit of the original, from the elegant cushion case to the tilted dial layout that gives this watch its distinctive character. The dial finishing is particularly impressive. With its sandblasted texture, highly polished numerals and heat-blued seconds hand, it punches well above its price point. The high polished case adds to the dressy appeal, and while the push-pull crown and winding experience aren't the most refined, those are minor trade-offs given the overall package. Inside, the Seagull ST1701K movement provides a smooth sweep, hacking seconds, and a decent 40-hour power reserve, making it a solid, reliable choice for an affordable mechanical dress watch. But perhaps the biggest win here is the wearability. The 36mm case size makes it far more accessible for those who found other homages like the Baltani 1921 a bit too large. At around $80 to $140 depending on the version, the Militado 1921 offers incredible value for anyone looking for a classy, vintage-inspired dress watch that stands out from the usual round case designs. If you're a fan of the original Vacheron Constantin 1921 but don't want to spend tens of thousands of dollars, this is one of the best alternatives you can get. Would I recommend it? Absolutely. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps out. And let me know in the comments what you think of the Militado 1921. Would you consider adding it to your collection? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.